the federal government of Nigeria, this time reversing its policy, banning the sale of new subscriber identification modules as SIM cards. Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Dr. Issa Pantami, in an agreement with industry stakeholders, revised the National Digital Identity Policy for SIM card registration and said that the National Identification Number, the NIN, will be mandatory for all SIM registrations going forward. So, joining us to discuss these headlines, as always, Arise business analyst Chika Mbonu. Chika, happy Friday. Happy Friday to you. You're very welcome. And you said it yesterday, we're always bringing you on whenever there's something controversial going on, and I'm sorry. It's a timing thing. It's timing.
Our assignment on this program,
yes, sir,
is to educate.
It is.
And analyze.
It is.
Dispassionately, we're not politicians. We just put out the things the way it is.
Analysts.
Analysts.
That's what we are.
And,
yes.
So to enable our readers, the objective is that I don't know this program. Let everybody, this thing should just quieten down. So because people will have a better understanding of where we're headed.
Yes.
See, to enable our readers to appreciate this better, I will pick the 2020 budget.
We're starting with money printing, right? That's what
money printing. Money printing.
Go ahead.
I'll start with the 2020 budget.
Yes.
So I put the whole thing out there so you can understand the whole issue, what the issue at stake.
Yes.
2020 budget. Projected revenue was 5.3 billion. Actual revenue, I don't know.
Right?
Trillion, sorry.
Yes,
trillion naira.
Yeah.
Trillion naira.
Yeah.
Actual revenue came in at 3.9 trillion. About just 73% achieved. 27% shortfall. Now, however, expenditure budgeted was 9.97 trillion.
Right.
Actual was above that. As usual, 10.02 trillion. So, budget deficit that was planned for 4.6 trillion came in at 6.1 trillion. So, budget deficit is that the gap between the revenue that came in and expenditure.
Right.
Expenditure in this case was more than the budgeted. So now, you have that deficit, which is, so the issue now, how do you finance that deficit?
Yes.
For every government of every country, Nigeria, Ghana, how do you finance that deficit?
Yes.
You have, gaps, ways to finance them. One is domestic borrowing. It must be structured. It must be through DMO. It must be issued. Treasury bills, bonds, local bonds, and so on and so forth. Announce, pricing, amount, tenor, done. In this case, the government did that. The central bank did that. Out of this 6.1 trillion deficit, mark that figure, 2 trillion came from domestic borrowing.
Okay.
And then 1.2 trillion cover from foreign borrowing, cover part of that deficit.
All right. Okay.
So domestic borrowing, 2 trillion. Foreign borrowing, 1.2 trillion. So it left a gap of 2.8 trillion.
Right. So 3.2 out of the 6.1 trillion deficit.
So now, that 2.8, this what I'm giving to you now was the presentation by the Minister of Finance to the National Assembly, please.
Yeah. Okay.
So out of that, after that, she said the balance of 2.8 trillion was financed by Ways and Means.
And you've talked about Ways and Means on this show.
Ways and Means.
Yes.
Now, in common parlance, economic balance, we call it printing of money.
We do.
That's what it's called.
Yes,
printing of money, Ways and Means. Basically the central bank of every country is a bank of last resort for the federal government of the government of that country. So that's where the government has account. And so if that government, like Nigeria in this case, goes to central bank to go and drop check or whatever, that check needs to be paid. So it's Ways and Means. Now, but what happens then is that it's not just anyhow, like that Ways and Means is no limit.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, the CBN Act, please, this is other things being equal. Follow me, please.
Yes.
I'll expand it to the end.
Okay.
CBN Act says that the Ways and Means should not be more than 5% of the previous year's revenue.
Revenues, right.
So in the case of this 2020 we're talking about, remember Ways and Means was what? 2.8 trillion.
Yes.
The revenue for the 2019 was 4.5 trillion. Now, if you look at that now, you'll find that the Ways and Means was almost 70%.
Higher than
of the previous year's revenue. Meanwhile, remember the CBN Act says what? It shouldn't be more than 5%.
So here we are.
So remember we're educating.
We are educating.
So the CBN Act says it shouldn't be more than 5%.
Yes.
Of the previous year's revenue. For 2020, the Ways and Means was 2.8 trillion. Revenue for 2019 was 4.5 trillion. So it's about 7% of the revenue. So he exceeded that. Follow me a little wide.
Yes.
Now, the other issue that is important here, therefore, is what? That the CBN Act says also that whatever is given to government as Ways and Means must be cleared by the end of the accounting period.
Right.
Before they can get the next next one. Now the issue was, has that been sorted out? So that's another issue out there. Now, so we have get where we are now. 2.8 trillion ways and means, which is more than the 5% of CBN, the CBN Act. But the issue is that 2020 was an unusual year for the whole world.
Right.
You know what happened? Our major revenue oil prices cratered.
Thanks.
COVID problems, everything. So, you know, the monetary policy tool that most central banks in the whole world use was what? That printing of money, ways and means.
Quantitative easing.
Quantitative easing.
Yes.
To push out money into the economy, to make sure that the economies, reflect, and then we'll come out of recession. In Nigeria, it has worked for us. So in 2020, early Q4 2020, we came out of a recession at 0.11 domestic growth, GDP growth, and we're hoping that this year will get better. So put all in the same basket. What the CBN governor, I guess, is quarreling with is the fact that the way it was printing of money. As he said in his speech, he said it was said as if they just go to print money and just take a billion van and be spread over the place.
Right.
No, that's not what it is. But in common parlance, that's what it's called. But as I told you, the issue with ways and means is what? The fact that it is not backed up by productive growth.
Of course, yes.
Ways and means normally is not backed by productive growth. So if money in the hands of consumers increases and the quantity of goods does not increase, what happens? People have more money chasing fewer of the goods.
Right.
And you know what that means?
Yes.
Inflation.
Inflation. And we're at a record number right now. Inflation,
so that's that. But the issue, as the CBN governor constantly said, that it will be irresponsible of him, that as a bank of last resort, the government, that when things are down, to not be able to provide the funding
for the
federal government. Right. So if you look at the 2.8 trillion done in 2020, divided by 12, it's about actually 230 billion every month. What the governor talked about was what? 60 billion every month.
Yes.
So at the end of the year, the Minister of Finance comes to give her her account. She will talk about the cumulative ways and means that she has been given. And it may not be different, it may not be too far away from what said. So what I'm saying in the basket is this, that, the CBN governor is saying, Obaseki, as a governor, profited from the ways and means.
Yes.
So why is he, talking it down, as if CBN just went on merry-go-round to just go and print money for just printing money's sake?
Right.
Meanwhile, it was to support states, including Obaseki's Edo State.
Right.
This is the sum total of this issue.
As always, very illustrative. Thank you for that, Chika. We've got about a minute to go. What do you think of the reversal of the ban on SIM card sales?
See. Remember, I thought about this program, that this is one, in Nigeria, there's lack of rigor in decision-making in our country. And this symbolizes it.
Yes.
How many deadlines have changed, have changed. It's because people didn't think through this. What they hear is, Nigeria, the Nigerian big man tells us, it's irreversible, that's not going back, that. Meanwhile, they forget to, that every month, we used to have about 2 million new addition to the network.
Yes.
Because of new businesses, because of new people coming to the country. So in the last 2 months now, you have shut down that. And nobody's thinking about the impact of that.
Right.
Nobody's also thinking about that during this COVID period, people are doing business through what? Online, internet, phones, SIM cards, and they shut it down because of lack of rigor. We don't think through things. And I'm aware that we require a qualitative database for the country, but it can be done better. Always.
All right, business analyst Chika. You see, this is why we have him on. Excellent analysis. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you always.